You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Marcy Morrison. Why you should follow your passion, even if it scares the out of you. Welcome, ladies, to Life Check Yourself. I'm super excited for you because we are branching out at the Institute for Living Courageously, and we're going to be talking to Marcy Morrison, who is the founder of Careers with Wings. And anything with wings is good by me. Marcy's been doing this for 14 years, and she's supported hundreds of people living what they love in their career and their life and tie that to making the difference that they're here to make, which is, I mean, if you can connect your joy to your service and your service to your joy, you have won the human lottery. She does life coaching workshops. She's a speaker. She has spoken at corporate organizations. She's done like the National Charity League, Junior League, University of California, San Diego. She's done a major women's conference in Guatemala. How cool is that? She's written 2 books, Finding Your Passion, The Easy Guide to Your Dream Career, and Falling in Love with Me, A Personal Journey and a Guide to Falling in Love with You. And like me, she's a mama of Cameron, who's 20, and Logan, who's 17. And I'm just super happy that you are here.
Thank you so much for having me, Marni. I'm excited to be here with you and share inspiration for all of the people you support.
Okay, I have a question for you so totally off the path already. I was reading your bio and I was like, what do Cameron and Logan like? Are they like asking you for advice around this stuff? Did their friends like come and say, what does your mom think? What's it like for these 2 young men to have such a powerful woman as a mom and role model?
Well, I just have to share that like Cameron, for sure. I, number one, wanted just to encourage both of them to live their passion and purpose, right? First people I got to support are my kids.
Right.
So Cameron, what I love about his story is that he decided not to follow the traditional path, and his passion is video game design. So he didn't go to college and instead taught himself how to code games, and then ended up landing his dream job at a video game company in LA. So to me, he is living that don't follow the traditional path, follow your own path.
I love that. And what's Logan doing? Now he's like totally seeing his brother do it his way. What's Logan up to?
So yeah, Logan's a senior this year, and also not in a rush to follow any traditional path. His heart loves animal behavior and doing something about climate change. And so he'll probably take some time to go to community college and do some internships to really figure out where he can make the biggest impact. So again, no rush. I'm a big fan of community college and figuring it out. So that's what he's going to do.
And I think this is so the reason I kind of went down this pathway is because I think that we all get so caught up in the like that it's too late for me now, or I wish I would have done that, or I heard this when I was on the beach in Maui at Christmas time, talking to a woman who is like 10 years away from her retirement. And she was like, so I just have to do this for like 10 more years. I was like, okay, that sounds fun. And so I just think it's like if we all sort of started out with like, okay, pretend I'm 20 and 17, right? Like, and I had this wide open space in front of me, what would I really do? So knowing that's how your kids sort of their trajectory is going, like, what was your story? Like, how did you decide to land where you are?
I was I think I was technically like a millennial. Like I just didn't fit into my generation, right? I'm 53, right? So it was like I remember when I graduated, right? It was like you had two paths you could take, or anyway, that's what I thought. It was like either you go work at a corporation and sell your soul, or you go save the world and live in poverty. So I actually chose the save the world and live in poverty.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's kind of tied to the thing you read about Guatemala. So the journey started with me actually working in El Salvador, helping to break the cycle of poverty, and I loved it. I'm actually from the Jersey Shore originally, and I was working in DC, and that organization that I worked with, that's what we did. So when I was in El Salvador, somebody asked me to help with a business plan. I'm like, what in the heck is that? Because I had studied, international affairs and Spanish, and I'm like, what's business? And so that's what brought me out to San Diego. It's 27 years ago now to get my master's in international business in Latin America. I said, hey, wait, if I know business, I can save the world better. And so I've practiced what I've preached, like follow your passion and purpose, and then gather information along the way so you can get even stronger in the difference that you can make, right? So did that. I actually worked at jobs I did not like, which actually was an important part of the journey. I needed to know what that felt like. And so ended up, after getting laid off from a job I didn't like, worked at a place called the Institute of the Americas up at UCSD that organized conferences all over Latin America, which I loved. And then I got pregnant with Cameron. And I said, you know what? My first priority now is being a mom. I said, what's the difference that I want to make in the world now that allows me the flexibility to be a mom? And that's when I came up with Careers with Wings, because I said, first, I want the freedom and flexibility. But second, I would be, and I think, Marni, you're this type of person, like listening to your podcast too. Like, I'd be the type of person to be a party. And then I'd start talking to somebody. I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you happy? Like, why aren't you doing what you love? Like, can I help you? Like, can I make connections for you? And so just was naturally like that person that just really curious about people, wanted to help them. And I love strategy too. So I'm like, okay, that's great. Let's get clear on your vision. And now let's map it out so you can live it. Let's stop talking about it. Like you said, don't sit in a job that you hate for 10 years. Like, go do something that you love. Like, start making a plan now.
Yeah, I was at the gym this morning, and I'm staying at this community right now before I live in an RV full time. And it's 55 and older. And so there's a lot of people like my age. I'm 55. And then there's some older people, and there are these two dudes working out, like lifting, powerlifting. I don't know how old they were, but the one guy, he was probably maybe late 60s or 70s. And they were talking about things. And he said, the older I get, the thing I say in my mind is, if not now, when am I going to do it? Right? Like, why would I not do it now? And I think like if we could have the wisdom of somebody who's that age now, right, then we wouldn't sit there and wait for there's this time in my imagination that circumstance will give me permission to do that. So what do you tell ladies who are like, and men, I'm sure you work with men, who are like, I don't know how to get started. I'm a breadwinner, or I'm a this, or I'm a that, like the circumstances in the way of them feeling the freedom to get their wings.
Wow. Good question. Yeah. And it totally depends for each person. And I always like to tell stories. Are you okay if I tell a story?
Oh my God, I love stories.
Okay, great. Well, my specialty really is career transition, right? Like the Careers with Wings. And so a lot of times people will come to me like 40s, 50s, like even 60s, and be like, I always equate it to like an elephant that's been tied to the post for so long and walking in a circle, and the rope is cut, but they just keep walking in a circle because they don't know what else to do. And so I had this one client come to me, and she was an executive in corporate America and got laid off in COVID, right? Like, hello. So that was not a good thing. And she went kind of into this freeze state. Like, she's like, what if I'm too old and I can't go back to work? And I don't know if I want to be an entrepreneur because I've never been an entrepreneur, and like just kind of froze. And then when we met, I said, well, we really got clear. Like, I think in our society, we do it backwards, right? Like, it's like, what do you want to do with your career without thinking about your life? I always like work with people. I say, what do you want in your life? And then let's figure out how the career fits into your life, right? So that's what we did first. I go, what is it that is really important to you now at this stage of your life? And so we got really clear on that. And then I said, well, what if it wasn't black and white? What if you didn't have to get a job and you could take some time to build a business? So we've been actually working together this last year. And so the first thing that we worked on was how to leverage all of her corporate American skills and the parts that she liked. I go, okay, well, you can do what you've always done, but why don't you cherry pick the things that you love,
right?
And start like your own consulting business, and then go reach out to all of your past contacts. And so like really within like, I think the first month or two that we were working together, she did that and landed this amazing gig that was really that foundational income that she needed. And then she decided her passion, the difference that she wants to make at this stage of her life is that she's been like an expert at her designing her own retirement and financial planning. And she goes, it breaks my heart to see how many people out there don't know how to do this. And if I could even just help one person, I want to do that. So we worked on really helping her build her own coaching business around that. So it was like, first we did the financial part, and then now we're actually working on the retirement part. So for anyone listening, I think that the first part is really to get that clarity, and then to really get clear on like, maybe there's a 3 different ways that you could do it, right? So don't get too attached that it's got to be one way or another, right? Be creative about like a short-term strategy with a long-term strategy.
I think what you're saying is so brilliant, because I think what happens is that, and I know this is true of our listeners, we get very binary, right? And I think the way that, even like when you're talking about your boys and you're like, it's non-traditional, right? Like it's like, well, there's this way and there's that way, right? And what I love about what you're doing is you're saying, well, what if there are 5 ways? What if there are 10 ways, right? And helping someone really ask, like you said, like, what's the most important thing now? What do you want your life to look now? And this is really cool too. You talked about like creating that stability that gives someone the freedom to then explore other things. Why do you think that so many people can't see all those possibilities? Like, what gets in the way?
Gosh, I think there's so many things. Like with this client in particular, I think there was an insecurity around age, like that part too. And then I also think because she had been in corporate America for so long, like it's almost like our education system, right? Like we actually forget how to think creatively and like for different solutions. And it was almost like she didn't know how to ask herself the questions to help her get unlocked, right? So
right.
Yeah, or to look at things from a new lens. She didn't have the new lens to look at. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting. Like I mean, I even have to like test myself too, right? Like coaches need coaches too.
Oh my God. No, for sure. Because we're talking like nobody can see the label from inside the jar. And I think this is a really important piece. So we just started a new program about life design, right? Which is literally looking at what's the kind of life that you want. And one of the things I think that's so mind blowing in doing this work is, and I'd love for you to talk about this, is when I ask someone like, what's your problem? Like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Like, what's not working in your life? They often put the solution in the problem, right? Like that they think is the answer. Or they're not really focused on the real problem. It's like their neural pathways are so like ground in deep. And I just think that that's such an interesting thing, that we think that there's only like, so many solutions. So I have a client, I'd love to hear what you think about this. And she was like, my boss is kind of like a jerk and my commute's 2 hours long. And she thought her problem was sort of like, how can I make my commute less painful? I'm like, why are you like So you think that is the answer, right? If that's the answer and you've put it in the problem. How do people get out of that? Like, how do you get really clear, like you said, on what is, like, for your client that you gave the example of, like, what was the real problem that she needed to solve first? What are the questions you start to ask yourself?
Yeah, that's a great, isn't it? That's so interesting. I've seen that before too. Well, I mean, I think that so often we forget what makes us happy and what's
Mm,
important to us, right? Like,
hallelujah.
hello, like it
Yeah.
all comes down to that. And I think that that changes over time, right? Like when I was working in El Salvador, that was awesome for me when I was in my early 20s. I loved that. But then when I had kids, traveling to Latin America all the time is not the right thing. So I think reevaluating what makes you happy at each stage of your life is like the number one thing. And what's important to you too. Like, are you okay if I tell another story?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Oh my God!
So,
You have an unlimited storytelling pass, Marcy.
well, I think it's like one thing, right? Like it's like hypothetical things are like hard for me. Like that's why I love listening to your podcast too. Is that's a real person's story. I'm like, I want
Yeah.
to hear about the twists and the turns, and then like your dark night of the soul, and then how'd you get out of that? So, for me, I love stories, and so I was actually thinking of a man that I worked with that had come to me, and he was 45, built and sold all these high tech care companies, and was referred to me because he was just like blank on his passion and purpose, right? And I know you've read The Alchemist
Yep.
and like how the answer is actually in your backyard, but you just like were trying to find it so far out of yourself. So that's the other thing. I'm like, what does your heart want you to do? Like, listen to your heart, right? So we sat down and he was like, I go, well, like, what is important to you? And he said, oh, my wife and kid. And I go, well, that's important. And he goes, yeah, I'm building high tech healthcare companies for the last 20 years has really not given me the time that I want with my wife and blah, blah, blah. So it was really interesting because I said, well, let's start there. Let's have some more fun with your wife and have some more fun with your kid. And so what's been so interesting that I've seen is that when people actually become like a kid again, and start to
Yes.
like come from this place of wonder. So actually his first assignment for us working together was to go play on the playground with his kid and actually not think so much about what it is that he was going to do and just enjoy himself and remember what it is that he loves and discover what it is that he loves. And it was so cool because like through a series of these kinds of things, he actually woke up like through like dots connecting that he's like, you know what I want to do? I actually want to take my leadership skills and make a difference here in San Diego. And so now he runs a nonprofit that supports all these other nonprofits in San Diego that also gives him the freedom and flexibility to be with his wife and kids. So it's almost like, again, start with what you love and then start connecting the rest of the dots.
I love this. Like, that is what I've discovered in my own journey in the last couple of years because I'm getting ready to be I am an empty nester. Oh my God, I can't believe I said I'm getting ready. I'm like, that's funny. It's empty, honey. But I've done all this stuff and I work and thinking about this and thinking about that. And what I realized was, and I'm going to go live in an RV full time and do this whole radical living thing. And we expanded our brand and lots of different things. But what I forgot was that when I was a kid, I loved nature. And I was the kid at like 6 years old. My parents dropped me off to like summer camp. It was like in Iowa. So it was not a fancy camp. It was like learn how to cook on the fire camp and sleep in tents. And it was 1 week at a time. My parents came to pick me up that first Saturday. And I was like, can I stay? And I stayed for like 5 weeks.
Oh my God, Marni, I love that so much. Sorry, are you being a kid again and like hugging trees and stuff?
I am. I'm like, I've always loved nature and camping and being outdoors. And now I can see all these moments of my life, but I literally, Marcy, I forgot. Like, I literally forgot. And I just think that what you're talking about is like the answer to like what am I supposed to be when I grow up, or what am I supposed to do? Or we just think it's in our, like, if we just look at the questions over and over again, we'll think of the answer. And what you're saying is like, there's an experiential piece that unlocks your truth.
100%. Get the s'mores out and like start grilling on it. You know, it's like it takes you back, right? Did you have a total flashback to like being in Iowa. I was like, that takes you back to that feeling, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I just remembered like we did a couple of experiments over the last 2 years in different sized vehicles and things like that. And I just was like, literally making the s'mores, looking for the firewood and building the fire. And I was just like, this is my joy. And it's really interesting because that doesn't mean I don't like my, instant hot water in my sink, right? Or it doesn't mean that both those things aren't true because, like you said, because now I'm 55, right? So what is that part? How do you help people find the thread of our soul, right? That like is the through line, like you said about your guy in San Diego. There's this through line that keeps showing up. How can you start to discover that?
I think, well, like for sure, the play piece is so important. And I always have people keep a journal too with these little flashes of inspiration. It's almost like when you're not thinking about it, right? Like you're playing, like it's like you're bouncing in the jumpy with your kid and all of a sudden you get this download. It's like follow those like hints of inspiration, It's like, I don't know. I think it really does come from play and remembering those things that make you laugh and have fun, and like even hobbies too. Like it's amazing. It's like I feel like I'm a car mechanic sometimes, like, or no, people mechanic.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's kind of like I was thinking about this one other gentleman that I helped too, and it was like he was super well qualified and like just really well accomplished and could not land a job for like a year. And I was like, what is going on here? Right. And so it's so funny because I'm sure this happens to you too, Marni. Sometimes it's the simplest things that make the biggest difference. Right. So I was asking him, I'm like, okay, so what do you normally do for your self-care routine? And he's like, well, I really love my walk. And I go, well, are you doing your walk? And he said, no. I go, well, step one, we're going to incorporate your walk into your day. And it was amazing to watch the transformation that even just happened in that moment. It was like he got clearer, his self-confidence started to increase, and like everything really started to shift from there. So it's like, start with the basics first. Like, are you getting enough sleep? Are you like having fun, laughing, or doing a hobby that you love? Like I had one client that would just really love to knit. But
I knit. I love that. What happened to the knitting client?
Oh my gosh. Well, she realized that like in some ways, I hate this to sound mean, but it's like when I do find like people in a job search, sometimes they get so self-absorbed that it's like actually detrimental. So the knitting thing was really cool because she wanted to find a way to give back. And she's like, wait, I can knit, and I can knit hats for cancer patients. So it's like, I actually encourage anyone that I'm supporting in transition to find a way to give back, because it's like, actually, when you get out of your own self, it's like in helping someone, that's a lot of times when the light bulb goes off.
That is so true. It's funny. I'll probably tell this story like 20 times, but because it was so mind blowing, it speaks to what you're talking about. So I started taking golf lessons, and I was kind of struggling, and I had a lot of limiting beliefs about myself because I forgot about who I am. I had some stories. Anyway, and I was trying to figure out like, how can I solve this problem, right? Like I could watch videos, I could read books, I could talk to other people who play golf. Anyway, I decided I wasn't going to focus on that at all. Like I decided I'm not going to try and get better. I'm just going to try and have fun. And I had a lucid dream where in my dream, I was playing golf right-handed, even though I'm left-handed. And I went out there on Saturday to warm up before my lesson. I was like, I'm just going to try this. Turns out I'm a right-handed golfer.
No way. That is so cool. By you having fun with it, it unlocked the like answer.
Yes. And I didn't think about it while I was like watching a YouTube video on how to be better at golf, right? Or, and I just think that that's so important. What you're talking about is like the questions that you're asking these people to look at, and our listeners are like, well, what brings you joy? What is fun? Like, what's really like the essence of me playing golf is that I want to have fun. I want to do something with my husband and I want to be outdoors in nature. And also I like to learn new shit. Like, do I have to be good at it? Honestly, kind of don't care. So I think the quality, what everything you're pointing to is just like the quality of the questions that you're asking.
Yes, and I think too that I know you read that in the bio. The second book I wrote was about falling in love with me, which was my own journey when I went through a divorce, and I had this realization that I was always looking for this happiness, like outside of myself, right? Like when I get my master's degree, I'm going to be good enough, or when I'm in a relationship, I'm going to be good enough, and I had to go in this really deep journey of just loving myself fully as I am. And I find that that has been the key for so many people, that they are kind of on this outward journey of like this accomplishment list, right? Like that client that I mentioned that sold high tech healthcare companies. I was like, what if you actually never accomplished one more thing, but could love yourself right now in this moment? So in addition to playing with this kid on the playground, that was a big part of his journey, and in loving and accepting himself and celebrating everything that he's already done. That's when the dots started to connect too. Like, take the pressure off. Like sometimes when I'm working with people too, I'm like, they get really stressed out. Like, when am I going to figure this out? I go, you know what? I encourage you to actually take a week off. And then it's like something magical, like your dream happens in that moment that they take that time off to like, just allow things to come together, to start gelling together.
Yeah, when you're trying harder, you're moving further away from truth.
100%. It's again, these simple things like that I think we're like putting kind of at the bottom of the list. Like it was the one client I mentioned with the financial and retirement coaching, like she was just so task driven from like corporate America. It was so funny because I said, do you mind if you show me your to-do list? And what I noticed is actually she was at the bottom of that. I go, okay, well, we're going to be turning that up right side up where you are actually at the top, because she would have spent all morning doing all these other things. And I go, what's the most important thing for you to do this day? And she was talking about the gym and her self-care and like this kind of stuff. I go, well, that has to be first. And once she started doing that, it was like, she's like, the whole day is like flowing for me now. Like, it's like so much easier because I filled my tank up first.
And that is such a huge paradigm shift right there. Like flipping your to-do list or your task list or whatever upside down and just being like, put you first, because we have so many limiting beliefs. Like that's a waste of time. That's selfish. That's, I don't know. What do people think about that typically when they're buried under perfectionism and productivity?
You mean to turn it up? Like, yeah.
Yeah, like what's their mindset that they have to change?
It's resistance at first. It takes like, actually this client I'm talking about, she actually took a month off. Like, so she's like, I'm just going to practice this every day. And I just need time to like, just practice. It's like learning like jujitsu or something, right? It's like,
yeah, it feels
hard.
My
God, this is so awkward. Like I gotta so, and like I said, the client that went to the playground with his son, he's like, seriously, that's my assignment? I'm like, seriously, that's your assignment? Like, it's so interesting. And I when I did one of the speaking engagements at one of the biotechs here in San Diego, I was like kind of intimidated. I'm like, oh my God, these are people that are like doing DNA sequencing to like, heal. I'm like, what am I going to say to these people? But this is what we did. We talked about living what you love in your career and life. And we talked about a lot of these things. They did exercises, and it was really interesting because at the end I said, what is it that you are taking away from today? And I'll never forget this. It was like 100 women in the room, and then some were on the phone because they were from all over the world. And this woman overseas said something like, the most profound question you asked me is, what do I do for fun? And I don't have any fun. And so thank you for asking me that question, because I realized I'm so busy trying to save other people's lives that I'm not saving my own. And I was like, dang.
That is, what's interesting. So my husband is out of town going to visit an ill family member overseas. And so I realized when I was doing my review of my year for 2021 that I had these peak experiences doing playful things by myself. And I was like, that's interesting. And so I decided this year I'm going to once a month, I guess the artist way would call them like artist dates, if you've ever read that book, right? Where you just go play or go have fun. And I did my first one yesterday because my husband's out of town, so it was super easy. But I'm still going to do it, Marcy. I'm still going to schedule it even when he's around. But I went out and I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. Where do I want to Where do I want to go next? What do I want to do? And it really just it tapped back in. I felt like that freedom that you're talking about in all of these stories. There's this lightness that the people that you're talking with and working with that is playful and fun. And I think that and I started researching like artist date because that's just me. And I realized that a lot of people just don't even know what to do. So if you go on the internet, there's like 101 artist date ideas, because people are so far away from freaking what's fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I didn't know that was online. I'm going to go check that out. That is so fun. Like, and it's like, again, this like in the fun too, like to dream. Because I think that so often, we hear that our dream can't be true, right? So it's like I'm even working with a younger client right now, and she knows what her dream is, but she's afraid like that she can't do it because she can't afford to do it, or she can't have her hobbies that she wants. And I said, well, let's see if that's true. So I had her create a budget and figure out, what it is that she feels like she needs to like make for her hobbies and all of this stuff, with the help of her mom. And then I had her do informational interviews with people in that field to really understand, like, is this possible? So it's like, I think a lot of times we shut our dreams out too, because we already, like you said, these self-limiting beliefs too, like, oh, that's not possible because whatever. And how do we know until we collect the information, right? So it's like, go out there and dream and talk to people like that live in your field that you're interested in. Like, find a way to make it possible. Like, so I'll tell you, can I tell you one more story?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, great. This is actually another woman. So I know that a lot of women here are on this listening, all women. So yeah, one of my clients had come to me, and she was working in the same field for a really long time and was so burned out. I would say like most of the people that come to me are just like so burned out. And so this is the interesting thing too, I think is an important point for the people you support, is that a lot of times people come to me and they are going to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
They're going to just blow it all up.
Hells no, I'm not doing that anymore. And so it was really interesting because she was like going to go from like A to Z, like total pendulum swing. And I go, okay, so what I allow people to do is then let's explore that. And so it was interesting as she went and she explored it. And what happened in that is she realized that those pendulum swings were not the right answer, because she would have had to start all over again in her career. However, what it made her realize is, what did she like from her previous thing that she could leverage for her new thing? And so it was super cool, because she was like, instead of like knowing how it's going to happen, she had the pieces. She was like, if I could do X, Y, and Z and leverage like what I've been doing, that would be the ultimate. So she was looking on LinkedIn and this opportunity popped up, and she was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that this existed. This is so amazing. And then the company says to her, oh my God, you're like our unicorn that we've been looking for. And she's like, oh my God, you're my unicorn. And so I think before people even discount their dreams, just put together that vision. Like I always say to people, I call it put together the pieces of your passion puzzle. Like if you have some of the pieces, like I want to do training in this industry that leverages this experience and this type of company, it's like, start sharing that with people. You never know who has the golden key to open the door for you.
Yeah. And that's what's so important, is like just allowing yourself. I know this sounds so cheesy, but like allowing yourself to dream, right? Because the dream is where the magic is in our lives. And I just feel like life is short. We should have We should tap into our magic. And I love that the name of your business is, I'm just kind of obsessed about wings, the careers with wings, because I feel like when we think about wings like unicorns and angels, we think that's magic. But like none of what you're talking about is magic. It's just process. It's just curiosity. It's just asking the right questions. And like you said, you have to fall in love with yourself. So last question. I was reading your bio and I was like, there's a character called Tinker Angel. And I'm like, I love you just because of Tinker Angel. I'm like, oh my God. What is the message? What's the message of Tinker Angel that you could leave us with today?
Well, that's my character, and my friend gave me that name. It's a representation of who I am. You know, she said, you're like this fairy that sprinkles happy dust on people and then wraps her wings around them as they go along their journey, right? And so that character, I wrote my second book with that character because it's really a representation, like I said, of my true self. And so I would recommend to people that they find their character, because that's what we did at the corporation that I mentioned. I had everybody become a character because it's also a form of play. And in that place of a character, I had them really examine their passion, their purpose, and the difference that they feel like they're here to make. So it's like playing too. It's like, okay, if I had wings and I could fly, like, what would I like be? You know, like I think of one character that somebody came up with the corporation was so cool because she called herself Underdog. You remember Underdog?
Yeah, of course.
Because she was like, I am the fighter for all like abandoned animals. And so it was really cool because she realized that she put all of her energy into her work. And then she got super excited about making more time for her purpose outside of work to help those abandoned animals, you know? And then it was really cool because she connected with other people within the company that also had the same passion and purpose. So it all comes back to having fun and figuring out what it is you love.
Oh my gosh, I want a character. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to dream about it.
Yes, you are. You got to tell me what your character
I will.
is. Something with a golf more or something.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I love it. You are amazing. I'm so glad. Now I feel like we have our Tinker Angel on our campus. So thank you for sprinkling your magic fairy dust and holding us all in your amazing wings. Ladies, find out more about Marcy Morrison in the show notes and her events and how you can fly and find your purpose and do it more, period. Just do it more, period. And on the way, whatever you're doing, make sure you life check yourself because life is damn short. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.